Israel's most recent strikes on Iran's nuclear infrastructure, including the centrifuge this morning, the centrifuge production facilities, nuclear scientists killed, the military leaders killed, revives a question that haunts the international legal order. When does a state's claim of self-defense become a pretext for aggression? And the answer matters not only for Iran or Israel, but for the future of any rules-based international system. If we condemn Russia's use, for example, of white phosphorus in Ukraine, or its pretextual invasion of a sovereign state, then we are morally and legally obliged to scrutinize Israel's conduct with equal severity. So I do, because I defy those people who promote tribalism, particularly on social media. Israel's use of force in Gaza and Lebanon has repeatedly breached core tenets of international humanitarian law. In Gaza, key operations, the cast lead in 2008 to 2009, the protective edge in 2014, the iron swords in 2023 to 2025, involved indiscriminate bombing of civilian areas such as the Shuja'iyah neighborhood in 2014, the destruction of essential infrastructure, including hospitals and water supplies, the use of white phosphorus, an incendiary weapon deployed over densely populated areas in both 2009, 2023, in contravention of Protocol 111, or Protocol 3 of the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons, and more broadly of customary law against indiscriminate attacks. The ongoing blockade, amounting to collective punishment, a clear violation of Article 33 of the Fourth Geneva Convention. All of these, I think, are important to take into account. In Lebanon, operations such as the 1982 invasion, the 2006 war, and the Sabra and Shatila massacre, carried out by Phalangist militias under Israeli watch, exposed Israel's command responsibility. The 2006 bombardment of southern Lebanon, with over 4 million cluster munitions, many deployed in the final 72 hours before ceasefire, remains a grotesque example of wanton destruction. None of these incidents were isolated. They're part of a routine pattern in which civilians are targeted or placed at considerable risk. So, does Israel have a pattern of rule breaking and of endangering civilians? The answer is yes. And so when you come to the Iran strikes, the jus ad bellum analysis, the strikes of the 12th to the 13th of June 2025 represent a major escalation. Israel claims the attack was an act of self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter, a response to the existential threat posed by Iran's nuclear program. But this isn't the first time Israel has invoked such a rationale. It did so in 1981 when it bombed Iraq's Osirak reactor. But for self-defense to be lawful, two conditions must be met: necessity and proportionality. And the attack must respond to an armed attack, or in rare cases to an imminent one. There is no evidence publicly available or credibly leaked that Iran was on the brink of launching a nuclear strike. Indeed, Iran is not known to possess a nuclear weapon at all. This places Israel's actions not in the realm of anticipatory self-defense, which itself is controversial, but in the domain of preventative war, which is unlawful. As Kofi Annan noted, if a state believes there is a time to act through sanctions, deterrence, or diplomacy, then it is not entitled to act militarily. Put simply, Israel struck first without sufficient evidence of imminence and without authorization from the UN Security Council. That renders its operations illegal under international law. And we have to be frank, that wonderful expression again. Were Iran to bomb Israeli nuclear sites or assassinate Israeli nuclear scientists on the basis that Israel's arsenal posed a long-term threat, such actions would be condemned without hesitation. The doctrine of preventative self-defense has been weaponized before, most infamously by the Bush administration in Iraq. It also is the excuse used by Russia to justify its invasion of Ukraine. What Israel has done is to align itself with a legally untenable position that the mere possession of hostile intent and potential capacity justifies lethal force. This is incompatible with the International Court of Justice's interpretation of self-defense and opens the floodgates to pretextual warfare. What Israel has done is to set an example which makes the world a significantly more dangerous place. We cannot accept that international law applies only when it's convenient to the West or to so-called democracies. If we defend international law, we defend it impartially, and we cannot abandon it altogether or if we abandon it altogether, then we are the weaker as a global structure. So we have to call it out when there are violations. There were violations by Russia. There are violations by Israel. We have to call them out as wrong. And the IAEA has warned that Israeli strikes on nuclear sites risk catastrophic environmental and civilian harm. The International Commission of Jurists has condemned the killings of nuclear scientists as unlawful assassination and the attack as an act of aggression. Meanwhile, Israel continues to ignore ICJ rulings concerning its conduct in Gaza. Its political leaders face international criminal court warrants but dismiss them as irrelevant. And this casual disdain for the legal order is mirrored by many of its allies, including, notably, the United States, France and Germany, who have avoided direct criticism, a moral dereliction that weakens global norms. Even if the finger of blame is not pointing at a particular state, simply the affiliation weakens our moral standing. Israel is not the only state to violate international law, but its repeated actions in Gaza, in Lebanon, now in Iran, demand not silence but accountability. If we want a world governed by law and not by power, then we must say clearly no state, however threatened or democratic, has the right to act as judge, jury and executioner on the basis of what it fears might happen. This is not legal pedantry, it's the difference between order and anarchy, between the rule of law and the rule of force. I'd be really interested to know what you think of this.